You're listening to The Back 40, the podcast for Ontario farmers, covering topics and issues that matter most to Ontario agriculture. Brought to you by Trillium Mutual Insurance, bringing the ag community together one podcast at a time. I'm the host of The Back 40, Mike Brine, agribusiness specialist at Trillium Mutual Insurance. Many years ago when I was in school, we found that most of our teachers had some sort of a connection through to agriculture. I grew up in a rural community, and no, I didn't go to a one-room schoolhouse, but I will admit that I was only about 1 year removed from getting into a one-room schoolhouse. But the teachers mostly had some sort of a connection there. In many cases, they were part owners of a farm with their spouses, definitely that they grew up in the industry there. And I distinctly remember covering things like the different swine breeds and the different dairy breeds, and those were taught to me by a lady who owned a dairy farm with her husband. So there was quite a connection there at that time. Over the years, we are further and further removed from the agricultural community, and more people have moved either to urban or don't have that much to do with agriculture anymore. And good information is really hard come by sometimes in the classroom. In 1991, Ontario Agri-Food Education, now known as Agscape, was founded to promote agriculture and food learning in the classroom. We're joined today by Mercedes Unwin. Mercedes is the Program and Resource Manager for Agscape. Mercedes, welcome to the Back 40.
Thanks for having me today, Mike.
So how did you get involved in the process of educating our youth about food and agriculture?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. As a kid, I really loved this one teacher. It always starts with a love for one teacher and how you become a teacher yourself. And she was a very fabulous grade 5 teacher. And then I thought to myself, I really wanted to be a teacher myself to make the same sort of impacts that she had on my life. So when I decided to go to post-secondary school, I went to Trent University. I did an undergraduate in English. From there, I went to do my Master's of Teaching at the University of Toronto, and I decided I wanted to be a teacher to have the same sort of impact on kids that someone had on my life. And then it always comes down to the same old during this time where a lot of other people who are aspiring to be teachers, they had a difficulty in finding a job. And I was in that same sort of place and situation. And I found this other kind of opportunity where I started working at this location in Milton called Country Heritage Park. And I started to do curriculum development. They had different agriculture programs that they're offering to youth at the time, and they were looking to revitalize them. And they were a previous agriculture museum that had gone private. So I was thinking to myself, I applied, I got into the job, and I really enjoyed the experience of curriculum development, writing new kinds of programs for kids. And the idea of, I got the opportunity at that time to learn more about agriculture and food just because they had an on-site barn. We got to work with different kinds of crops. We got to work with animals, and it kind of revitalized a passion I kind of had when I was a kid, when my mom used to take me to the Brampton Fall Fair. We used to go to the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. And even though I was born and bred in Brampton, and there's a bit of a distance between agriculture and more urban areas, I kind of always had this kind of interest in learning more about the animals, seeing the animals, understanding more about kind of crops and where our food came from. And that kind of accelerated more when I was in that position at Country Heritage Park. And then I graduated, couldn't find a job, and I decided, okay, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? It's that common question and equation everybody in the early 20s when they start to experience their first midlife, early crisis in their life of what am I going to do? I got a whole bunch of student loans. I need to figure this out. And this position opened up at Agscape at the time. It was the program assistant position. And I decided to apply for it for the heck of it. I needed a job. I needed to make money. I had student loans coming, knocking on the door. And I guess it's more of a selfish thing in the sense, yes, I had this interest, but I needed to survive first. I applied, they interviewed me, they hired me on as the program assistant, and I kind of went into it thinking, okay, I'm just going to do this for a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to be a classroom teacher like I want to be. Lo and behold, almost 3 years later, I'm still here. Things changed. Within a couple of months of me being the program assistant at Agscape, there was an opportunity for me to become the program manager. And now things have really changed and grown, not just my personal love for agriculture and food, but just even the organization itself. And it's a combination of things. At the time when I started working at Agscape, I was like, agriculture is really interesting. And there's so many ways that it covers different subjects. There's so much opportunity to learn and grow. And I started to really relate to the fact that, I really wish that I learned this when I was a kid, when I was learning more about it myself in the position, and how there's so much we need to know about where our food comes from, how we can be contributors to our food journey in Ontario, how we can make such an impact on the individual level, but also on a grander scale. And it really fed into my love of teaching anyways. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a space for me to still be that inner teacher that I am, but try to make a difference in kids' lives that they may not get the opportunity to have in the normal school classroom setting, because not every teacher in Ontario knows things about the agriculture and food industry. So how can I make a difference? How can I help these teachers, and how can I help these kids? And how can I really feed into my love that was starting to grow about agriculture and food? I've really kind of fed into that appreciation for the agriculture community, because there's something about working in agriculture that really makes you feel like you belong. It's the people who work in the industry. There's this common cause and goal of trying to improve people's lives, of feeding into our industry economically. There's this really community aspect that I really admired and appreciate, and I'm not ready to lose it. So I really want to stay and make a difference and make an impact on this really great scale of impacting all of Ontario. Like not many teachers get that chance when they're teaching in the classroom to impact such a large amount of kids on such a large scale. Of course, you see so many kids over the course of your career, but I get to kind of impact kids all across Ontario, and that's an amazing opportunity. It's a long story, but it's a really cool story by the fact that really I don't have any upbringing in agriculture, but I feel like I really belong here, and I definitely want to make a difference in the community. That's why I'm here, and it's definitely, my love has really stemmed to my family. I've told you in previous conversations, my sister works for 4-H Ontario. It's really built a bond, even a sisterly bond between us by the fact that we both work in agriculture. My grandparents were both farmers. They both came from farm families. So it's like an opportunity to connect with them and bring their past back to life almost in a way. We're all kind of on the same mission and goal of sharing the story about agriculture and food and how we can all participate in the community.
So your story is somewhat unique in that you started without a farm background and kind of fell into it, but really love the learning about agriculture. But we find that in many cases, good information in the classroom is really hard to come by. And that's something that it's really important, because without that understanding, we grow up without knowing where our food comes from. What is Agscape doing to correct that problem, and how big is the problem?
It is a big problem, I believe, because I've taught our programs and I've had that firsthand experience of kids saying to me, I don't know the difference between what a goat and a sheep is. I can't, like, if you show me two pictures, they look like the same animal to me. And if you tell them about even simple concepts of where their food comes from, what happens to it, they don't even know the difference between the terms organic and conventional. And we give them the opportunity to learn about organic and conventional foods. They're both healthy and safe for you to consume. And we do this through our programs because we see such a value in sharing with today's youth about, okay, where does our food come from? You need to know this if you're going to make really smart decisions on how you're going to eat, understand what happens to our food so you can make great food decisions in your life. It's going to impact you as you grow up, as you have your own families, and it can impact you on the economic level of what kind of choices you're making food-wise, even just purchasing your food on a daily basis. And we see that there's just such a great divide in terms of understanding all these various components about food, and it really gets misconstrued through social media where there's different conversations happening, but not very a conversation that shows all sides of the equation and that's all accurate. And really demonstrates this idea of keeping it accurate, balanced, and current, which is a motto that we stand by in our educational programs. So we kind of offset these concerns that we see, not even from concerns from the agriculture community, but like concerns we hear from parents, teachers, even youth acknowledge that they had no idea all this information or these facts were out there in terms of agriculture and food. And we do this through one of our biggest programs, and it's called the Teacher Ambassador Program. And what we do is we send specially trained Ontario certified teachers who many of them have backgrounds in agriculture. Some of them work in the food system previously as Michelin star chefs and want to impact youth by becoming a teacher and help them understand how to prepare food. Others have been previous agronomists that got into becoming a teacher, and they want to keep that heart and soul of agriculture and feed it into the kids that they're trying to impact on a daily basis. And we hire these individuals on, and they deliver our program with kids anywhere from grade 7 to 12. We have 12 different topics that we offer that we can deliver in the classroom that range from climate change, organic and conventional agriculture, animal health and welfare, biotechnology. And we call them kind of like the big topic issues, because a lot of these ones especially have these misconceptions that are being spread, and it kind of ingrains fear into individuals of not understanding that Canada has one of the healthiest food systems, and we should really understand what happens to our food to really show an appreciation and rely on it a little bit more. We've had great impact with our Teacher Ambassador Program. Even for this school year of 2020 to 2021, we're estimated to deliver and reach over 12,000 Ontario youth. And it has had such a great, massive impact in terms of a lot of kids are saying, I didn't know about this about agriculture. I didn't know anything about local food and how it can very support our local economic system and how it can offer jobs and the value of buying local, or even potential career opportunities that are available to them as they age and potentially graduate from high school or and start choosing post-secondary schools. And what has really has shown and been of great interest to me is that actually out of that 12,000 kids plus that we're going to be reaching, about 68% of them actually live in the Greater Toronto area and other major urban cities. So it's been a very interesting experience to deliver the Teacher Ambassador Program personally, but also as the program manager of the program, is that we're seeing a lot of maybe a switch to more individuals wanting to know where their food comes from an urban setting. And that's very kind of positive thing to see, because it's showcasing that there's just more interest happening in our agriculture and food communities. And sometimes there's always a bit of a divide of understanding where your food comes from, because a lot of that production happens in rural areas and there's a bit of a distance happening between rural and urban. But we're seeing that our Teacher Ambassador Program is actually helping to close that distance, where kids are understanding, okay, maybe I live in Brampton, such as myself, but I can take a short 30-minute drive outside of Brampton and look how much access to local food that I could potentially have, and how can I make an impact in my local food community. There's great opportunities to learn about agriculture and food within our immediate vicinity, but also what's happening outside of our immediate local communities. And that's what we very much try to really shrink and to understand is what's happening in our food system in terms of animal health and welfare, conventional organic practices, biotechnology. What does GMOs mean? And that's what we're very much trying to help kids understand. What does that mean? What does that look like? And how do you fit into this food system or food journey that you're going to be going on for the rest of your life?
So you mentioned roughly 2/3 of the students you reach are in larger urban centers there, but there's a lot there. That's what leaves 1/3 of the students that you're reaching aren't. They're out in more rural areas there. Do you notice a difference in the amount of information that third of kids have as compared to the urban, or is it pretty much the same?
It's funny because I've taught in both rural classes and urban classes, and sometimes it's interesting. Yes, you might find a few more individuals in rural classes who say, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. I can really add to the conversation. I live on a farm. My parents are beef farmers, and I help on the farm. And then there's still that percentage of individuals in rural classrooms who actually don't know much about agriculture, because rural doesn't always mean agriculture. It doesn't always mean that they know a lot about agriculture and food system, because they may not actually be directly a part of a farm family or a part of the agriculture and food system. So we've noticed is that even though there's a bit higher probability that we'll have a few more kids who know a little bit more about what we're talking about, because we take such a holistic approach to our programming, no matter what, whether they're in rural or urban classrooms, they still come away with it with some learning about the agriculture and food system that they didn't previously had. Because even if they're working in the industry, their expertise will lie in a certain area. They're going to be experts potentially in egg farming, but they may not know all these other areas in the agriculture and food system that exists. And we give that opportunity for them to have a bigger holistic learning opportunity to see kind of other areas of the industry that they may not commonly come across, even though they're experts in a certain area. So even with that, there's a great opportunity with delivering our program for rural or urban students, because at any point they're going to come away with it with something they never knew. And I think that's the main goal as an educator for our educational programs, is that as long as we reach one kid with one fact and they're going to take something away from it and be a little bit inspired, I think we've met our job for the day. Even as pulling on my teacher expertise, you just can't expect that the kid's going to connect to everything that you say. But if they connect with one thing that you say, you've done your job for the day. So you're going to come away with it happy. So I think that's what we come away with, is that, okay, even through all of the comments that the students share, and we let them do it voluntarily, they always say something like, oh, I didn't know about this in terms of all the things that agriculture does to mitigate climate change. I didn't know about that. And we're like, okay, we've done our job for the day. Or they didn't know about the career opportunities available to them in the agriculture and food system. So we set the seed. That's what the real amazing goal and accomplishment of our teacher ambassador program is. We set little seeds of knowledge and learning with all these kids in Ontario, where they see themselves in the agriculture and food system that they've never seen before. They're like a place for them that they can be a part of and see how they are always a part of it, no matter what, 24/7, every day of the year. At some point, you're always going to be involved in the agriculture and food system. It's just that we have to make sure we do a great job of telling them and explaining to them, you're experiencing this on a daily basis. And they're like, light bulb. Okay, I never thought of it like that. Okay, what can I do to be more a part of it? I love telling this story because it always makes me laugh. This one girl said to me, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. But then you came in here and told me about how cool it would be to be an artificial insemination technician. And I think that's going to be cool. And I think I might do that. And this was just a grade 7 girl. I was just like, you go for it. You do what you want to do. Because some of these skill sets that kids are pursuing are so have such a great ability to go into other jobs in the agriculture and food industry. You just have to explain to them that they're there. Being a food scientist and being able to be the next developer of these new food brands.
It's a wonderful opportunity. I know of several of my classmates that ended up there. One of the food scientists in my 4th year was living with us, and he was always experimenting, and it was a very, very good place to be when he was experimenting with what he was cooking. Do you like what you're hearing from the Back 40? We'd like to hear from you. Send us an email with your comments and thoughts to theback40@trilliummutual.com or follow us on social media @TrilliumMutual. You mentioned about 12 different modules that are available through the Teacher Ambassador program. That covers a little bit off on the curriculum, but tell us a little bit about the mechanics of how you actually deliver this program and how you actually get teachers in front of the students in a normal year. Now, we'll talk about the pandemic later, but in a normal year, how do you get in front of these students?
Yeah, in a normal year, how we used to do it was that the classroom teacher would book the program. They choose the lesson that they'd want that align with their unit that maybe they may be delivering at the time. And then we would send the request out to one of our teacher ambassadors that we employ, and they would just drive out to the school, go into the classroom and deliver the lesson, connect with the kids. And they would do pre and post surveys with them to make sure that our program is making an impact. That has been the process. We've done it for the past 10 years. Then kind of moving into things have changed, as everyone knows. nobody can go into the classroom. There's not even kids in the classroom in this moment that we're talking about right now. We really did this great transition, started happening in April, where we decided this program's got to keep delivering. What are we going to do to make that happen? If we can't get into the classroom and still connect with these kids, there's got to be alternative options. And so what we did was actually we just redeveloped everything. We did this major redevelopment phase in April 2020 going into the summer, and we were prepared and ready to actually start delivering our program virtually. So we reviewed the needs and did some research with all of our teachers and said, okay, what do you need this school year? And they said, okay, well, we don't know. Really, it really was what they said to me. They're like, we don't know. We're going to probably know the same time you know, which is September 2020 when the school year started. And so, well, I can't wait for that. So we made some best choices at the time. And, it's all about risk management, but we took a risk. And sometimes the best things that come out of it is taking the best risk and the biggest risk. We decided that we were going to use Google Meet and use Google as our platform of choice for delivery because it seemed like it was going that direction where it was going to be well used. And we kind of redeveloped everything and made everything kind of virtual friendly. We did some training with our teacher ambassadors to make sure that they were prepared and felt comfortable to deliver virtually. We did a lot of tips and tricks. We gave recommendations on how to teach virtually to engage with youth. And it really came down to, this is going to be an unusual year, everyone. This is going to be very strange because I'm going to tell you, even though there's that goal to get kids back into the classroom, there's going to be a lot of virtual learning. And we wanted to make sure all of our teacher ambassadors and staff were safe. So I said, we're going to be delivering virtual this year and we're going to make it the best that we can and just cross our fingers that everything's going to go amazing. And everything has gone amazing. It was like wiping the sweat off my forehead the first couple months of the school year, thinking, oh, something's going to go wrong. Something might happen. Something's going to go wrong. What we saw was this big uptake starting to happen in October where people realized that, okay, the teacher ambassadors program is still happening. We can still bring our local teacher ambassador into the classroom to connect with our kids, to teach them about agriculture and food. The classroom teachers who booked the program raved about it. They said, oh, despite the fact that they're delivering this program virtually, they're connecting with my kids on a whole nother level. And the kids are engaged, they're asking questions. They don't even ask me questions. It's so nice to hear them ask questions and not just hear crickets all the time when I'm talking. And it was just such a massive release. Oh, like the heavens opened up. And I felt like, oh, we made the best decision ever because we really didn't want to miss the opportunity to really engage with kids. And the kids need it. They've needed it more than ever before in this past year, because there's been a lot of kind of social anxiety by the fact that they can't be in the regular classroom, that they can't connect with their friends in the usual basis that they could previously. Teachers are stressed because it's a constant flux of change. And it was an opportunity for the teacher to have a moment to be able to connect with one of our teacher ambassadors, the kids to have a moment to connect with each other and still learn about agriculture and food. And it's been a great year because there's been so many conversations happening about our food system that this was a great time to be ready to deliver it virtually through Google. It's something that we're going to plan to do forevermore, that we're going to continue to offer it virtually, even when we are able to go back into the classroom, because no matter what, we want to be able to reach every classroom. And to do that, being able to deliver virtually very much opens doors for us to be able to get into that small elementary school up in Northern Ontario that only has one grade 7 split class that has half grade 7 kids, half grade 8 kids, and they only want that one lesson. So we're still able to deliver it. We're still able to meet the needs of the kids and the teachers by the fact that we're able now to scale up in such a great opportunity through virtual or in-class learning. So it's been an amazing year. I'm so happy to see that teachers and students are having such positive responses from our program, because now the momentum is going to continue from here. It's going to continue to provide the agriculture and food experiences that students and teachers need forevermore.
I do a fair amount of training, and I really do like doing in-person training, but I can see that most of the stuff that I deliver is going to be done both virtually and in person in the future. That opportunity to reach a lot more kids is certainly something that you have access to. You talked about, they only have one grade 7 class, but also you have many schools where, it might be difficult to get there, and being able to just pop in virtually, present the lesson, and then you can go on to the next school. How many kids have you reached virtually this year?
We kind of do a combination of reporting. I keep my teacher hat on and always think of it as a school year, but then as an organization, we have to report by our annual fiscal year. So far for the school year, we're on deck to provide almost 700,000 student experiences in agriculture and food education. And we've been very kind of creative in how we've been able to do that. And I'm only guessing this is an approximate number that's close to 700,000, because since January to about May, about this time period, we've been able to provide about 400,000 student experiences for agriculture and food education. So I'm guessing that's going to be about 700,000 for the school year. And we've been able to do this through multiple new kinds of activities that we've been able to do. And one of them I love to talk about, and I'll provide a great example of how we've been able to expand our reaches. We've partnered with Farm and Food Care Ontario to offer virtual food and farm field trips to classes in Ontario, teachers. And so we're trying to kind of bridge that gap between the agriculture food system and the education system by being able to offer these virtual food and farm field trips, where what we do is we organize with someone in the industry to do a YouTube live, and all of these kids come and join us, and they come and ask questions and participate in a live tour of someone's farm or facility and get to see what it would be like or get the opportunity to learn more about their particular potential commodity, or get to ask the questions, those burning questions that they can't ask because they don't really come across maybe a farmer in their everyday life. And we just ran one about a month ago, and we had our on-staff Ontario certified teacher and organic dairy farmer, my colleague Cassie, who ran a tour at her farm, and she reached over 18,000 kids in Ontario through that tour. 18,000 Wow. Kids came and tuned in and were asking questions like crazy. We had 50 emails that were sent into our inbox following the tour where they're like, we have so many more questions, and we were following up with all of them, and they said this was one of the best experiences ever. They quoted it as something that was well needed. The kids were so invested. Kids were running back and forth and telling their parents, like, look what I'm watching. Teachers who are also parents who had their own kids watched it a second time so that they could watch it with their own children. And there was such a great response level to have 18,000 kids from across Ontario come and tune in and just learn about dairy, organic dairy farming, and see the cows and have this really great emotional connection. We feel this is a great opportunity, and we're going to continue to offer it. We're running one by the end of May, and I have over 12,000 kids registered to attend. It's going to be of a flower greenhouse, and they're all very excited about attending. We have a couple more planned for the rest of the school year, which includes doing one with goat dairy. We're going to be adding a couple other ones like egg farming. We're going to be looking at potentially urban farming and doing that in partnership with Durham College to kind of look at agriculture from a different lens, so that we're able to see, okay, how does vertical farming maybe play a role in agriculture? Let's learn more about that. And it's been a great way to kind of bridge that agriculture community with education community, because we know as much as we want to bring kids to the farm, it's not always possible. We have biosecurity protocols that may prevent them from attending some of the farms. It is a business. Sometimes it's not easy to bring kids to a farm just for safety reasons, even on the side of the farm or even on the side of the school board. So we've been able to what can we do? How can we leverage technology? And that's kind of what the pandemic has offered, is that we've been able to create new innovations, such as this partnership with Farm and Food Care, to bring these field trips to kids. And I think it's been such a great value to the community both agriculture and education, because it gives them the opportunity to really ask those questions and say, okay, where does chocolate milk come from? Like, it doesn't come from a brown cow.
Really?
And
Yes.
so it's been great. It's amazing what you can do with technology. And I think it's amazing what the pandemic has offered is that if you notice, people are a little bit more patient and willing to work with you for these
Yes.
great opportunities to come to fruition.
It's interesting. It's technology that we always knew someday we'd be able to use, and someday we would be able to take advantage of that, and someday we'd do virtual tours. And the pandemic has said, well, someday's here, figure it out now. And by and large, we've done that. We've been able to use that technology, and you're reaching students that you would never have reached in a normal year. And being forced into it has been a good thing for you. What other programs do you offer through Agscape other than just the Teacher Ambassador program?
We have a couple other great programs because while Teacher Ambassador Program is our flagship program and really supports the development of agriculture and food knowledge for youth, what we also saw was there was a gap in terms of teacher knowledge around agriculture and food. So what we have is the Business of Food, which is 2 courses that we offer, Business of Food 101 and Business of Food 102, which allows for teachers to take this program for free, like any of our other programs that we offer. So Teacher Ambassador Program's free, our virtual food and farm tours are free for kids and teachers to attend. And for the Business Food, the teachers are able to participate in this online course that's facilitated by an on-staff Agscape Ontario certified teacher, as well as beekeeper, Shauna. And she facilitates the course and helps teachers learn more about agriculture and food. Because what we have seen and noticed was if the teacher doesn't know anything about the sector, most likely there's a bigger chance of them sharing maybe incorrect information with their kids. And that just exasperates issues going down like the line of how they get older, what kind of information they look for. And what we've been able to do is we offer kind of an unbiased perspective of agriculture and food so that they are able to get the knowledge that they need so that they can have great conversations with their kids. And potentially it gives them the opportunity to connect with kids who have families in the industry, who work in the industry as well, that they've never been able to do before. Because every kid is just looking to be appreciated and recognized for who they are, what their family does, their personal passions, and they just want to feel like they fit in the classroom. And by being able to offer this opportunity to teachers, they can have those conversations with kids so that they feel like they fit too in the classroom and that they feel that they connect with the education system by the fact that you're going to talk to them about something that they're passionate about, something that they continue to want to grow that passion in. And so it's been a great program that we offer. The Business of Food is something that we're going to continue to offer. We're actually looking to launch it nationally, because we have partners across all of Canada, our Agriculture in the Classroom partners who reside in every province, as well as Agriculture in the Classroom Canada. And we're planning to expand it so that we're able to use the Business Food and likewise offer it to other teachers in other provinces so that they can also learn about agriculture and food and be able to teach it in their classrooms and have those conversations with their kids as well. So that's going to be a great opportunity for us and for all of Canada to be able to take part in that and really impact kids across Canada and really impact the agriculture food system as a whole. So that's going to be fun.
So 700,000 interactions sounds like a lot, but we still have a lot of students in Ontario that will never or have not heard of this program or have not had the opportunity to take part in any of these. If someone is interested in getting this program into their school or into their child's classroom, how do they get involved? How do they find more information on this?
So there's a couple ways. I always encourage people, if they want to know information, to send me an email at mercedes.unwin@agscape.ca. Or if they want, they can go to our website, agscape.ca, and they can find and access all of this information. They can share it with their teachers. If they are teachers, they can book it. They can register their kids to take part in the virtual food and farm tours. In addition to that, we have a digital resource library that anybody can actually make an account for and download over hundreds of resources that they can use, whether they just want to share it with their kids as a parent, or if they want to share it with their classrooms and their students. They can access all of these materials, and there's lesson plans, there's videos, there's infographics, there's a whole bunch of different materials that we are offering, and we're continuing to always develop more. We also, if anybody's interested in learning more about Agscape or even taking part, is that we offer this event called Think Ag Career Competitions for grade 5 to 12. And this particular event, what we do is we actually bring in volunteers from the sector, and they run different interactive stations for kids that we group up into groups of 25. So if anybody's working in the sector, they're interested in taking part as a volunteer, we're always looking for more volunteers to add to our roster so that they could potentially run an interactive activity with kids who want to take part in our events. So we have different individuals already on roster who are volunteers, such as the University of Guelph, the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture. We have Dairy Farmers of Ontario, Grain Farmers of Ontario. The list is endless. Trillium Mutual is also a partner on our event for Think Ag Career Competition. So if there's anybody else who works in the sector, wants the organization to get involved, has a personal interest in taking part as a volunteer, they can also go to agscape.ca and register as a volunteer.
It's a personal passion of mine to see that we get information that is accurate and current out to people in our community, and the great place to start is certainly in the classroom with our students. We've been speaking with Mercedes Unwin from Agscape regarding the Teacher Ambassador Program and other programs that Agscape offers in order to educate our students in Ontario. Mercedes, thanks very much for joining us on the Back 40.
Oh, thanks for having me. I hope everybody enjoys the podcast.
You've been listening to The Back 40. Join us next time when our guest will be Gabe Ferguson from the Rural Ontario Institute. You've been listening to The Back 40, brought to you by Trillium Mutual Insurance. Be sure to subscribe to The Back 40 wherever you find your favorite podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. The Back 40, bringing the ag community together one podcast at a time. I'm Mike Brine. Until next time, take care and stay safe.